Welcome, tired traveler, to a story not of action, but of stillness. Tonight, we enter the most peaceful and enduring sanctuaries humanity has ever built. We will not rush. We will not worry. We will simply observe the long, quiet process of time, knowledge, and dust. Let the gentle weight of history settle over you as we begin a journey through the stacks, a journey designed to end only when your eyes finally close. Please subscribe to the channel for more tranquil histories designed for deep sleep. There is a hush that falls upon you the moment you step across the threshold of a great library. It is a different kind of quiet than the silence of a deep forest or a vast desert. This quiet is layered. It is a stillness accumulated over centuries of focused thought, shared reverence, and the soft, almost inaudible rustle of turning pages. It is perhaps the safest silence known to man. We begin here, in the present, observing the subtle geometry of calm. Look at the long, polished tables. They demand stillness. They require a gentle commitment to the task at hand, whether that task is reading, studying, or simply allowing the mind to unwind. Notice the vertical lines of the shelves, stacked to the ceilings like solemn sentinels, holding perfectly ordered universes of information. Every book, every volume is a promise of sustained focus, a promise that we are safe from the noisy, demanding intrusions of the outside world. The modern library, in its very bones, is an architectural prescription for mental rest. The lighting is often diffused, warm, and intentional. The acoustics are designed to absorb sound, turning a cough into a mere flutter and conversation into a distant, polite drone. This is deliberate. For those of us seeking to detach from the anxiety of the daily feed, the library provides a singular, unwavering focus, the linear path of a paragraph. Its very atmosphere acts as a mental weighted blanket, pressing down on the fidgeting impulses of the hurried mind, urging us towards slow, purposeful observation. Tonight, we will peel back these layers of quiet, tracing this piece back to its origins. We will see how this institution, the quietest of all, was slowly, deliberately constructed across 4 millennia, not just as a vault for knowledge, but as a deliberate sanctuary for the mind. Prepare to settle deeply into the comfort of predictability, the slow, rhythmic accumulation of forgotten facts. Our journey back in time begins not with paper, but with earth. Travel with me now far into the pre-dawn of recorded time to the arid plains of ancient Mesopotamia, perhaps as far back as 2500 BC. Here in the great cities of and Nineveh, the earliest organized repositories of human thought were not built of towering oak shelves, but of sun-dried clay. The earliest library was a functional space, a place for administration, prophecy, and trade. Imagine a room cool against the relentless desert heat, lined with simple wooden shelving or deep niches carved into mud brick walls. These were filled not with volumes, but hundreds, sometimes thousands of meticulously cataloged clay tablets. Each tablet, damply molded by hand, was inscribed with a wedge-shaped stylus, a process called cuneiform. The work was slow, methodical, and profoundly focused. Think of the endless repetition involved, the scribe pressing the stylus into the wet clay, forming the same signs over and over, recording lists of barley, prophecies of the future, or copies of the great epic of Gilgamesh. The sound of a cuneiform library would have been a soft, rhythmic tap-tap-tap of the stylus, overlaid with the quiet, dusty silence of the arid landscape beyond the walls. It is a sound of patient, enduring bureaucracy. These clay tablets, once inscribed, were then baked hard in a kiln or simply dried by the fierce sun, creating durable, heavy records. The act of reading required heft. Each idea held real physical weight. And when the great libraries of Assyrian kings, like Ashurbanipal in the 7th century BC, were destroyed by invaders, the fire did not consume the books, but baked them harder. They fell from the shelves, layer upon layer, preserved in the rubble, waiting for the peaceful quiet of discovery millennia later. The clay refused to burn. It merely turned to brick. There is deep comfort in that resilience. Drift forward now across the centuries and the Mediterranean to the city of Alexandria in Egypt, built by the successors of Alexander the Great in the 3rd century BC. This is where the idea of the library shifted from simple administrative record to a universal scholarly endeavor. The Library of Alexandria was a monument to the Hellenistic world's desire to collect, translate, and preserve every piece of writing that existed. Picture the Serapeum, the daughter library, or the main complex itself. These were not public reading rooms in the modern sense. They were grand, colonnaded structures designed for scholars and royalty. The documents themselves were papyrus scrolls, stored in pigeonholes or cubbies. Unlike the dense tablets of clay, papyrus was light, brittle, and delicate, demanding a slow, careful touch. The atmosphere here would have been one of hushed intellectual intensity. Imagine a room bathed in the yellow light of oil lamps, filled with the faint, dry scent of papyrus and the mineral tang of ink. Scholars, the most learned people of their age, would have worked for hours in silence, their movements slow and deliberate, unrolling the precious scrolls. The only sounds would be the careful unwinding of the parchment, the scratching of a reed pen on a fresh sheet, and the occasional gentle clearing of a throat. The preservation of the scrolls was a rhythmic, unending task. Scribes were tasked not just with copying, but with collating texts, standardizing punctuation, and labeling the outside of the scroll with a small title tag, a syllabus. This work of ordering chaos is inherently soothing. Even the tragic loss of the library, a slow, complex process over centuries, not a single dramatic blaze, is less stressful in historical contemplation. We are simply observing the gentle passage of time and the slow entropy of delicate organic material. We take comfort in the knowledge that while the structure vanished, the idea, the pursuit of organized, shared knowledge, did not. Please subscribe to the channel for more tranquil histories designed for deep sleep. Let the focus shift again as the world moves from the sun-drenched halls of antiquity into the cool stone quiet of the European Middle Ages. Knowledge, once the project of kings, retreated into the isolated fortified walls of the monastery. Our destination is the scriptorium, the dedicated writing room. The atmosphere here is one of profound, almost religious concentration. The rooms were often unheated, save for the occasional coal brazier, and lit only by the bright, steady light coming through large windows. Natural light was essential for the detailed work. The medieval scribe was a living vessel of slow, painstaking labor. Imagine the rhythmic work, the steady sharpening of the quill pen with a small knife, the precise, repetitive task of ruling the vellum or parchment with a lead point to ensure straight lines, the deliberate dipping of the quill into the inkwell, and the continuous silent transcription of text letter by letter, sometimes taking months to complete a single sacred volume. The only permissible sound was the gentle scratch, scratch, scratch of the quill on the prepared animal skin. These monks lived by a schedule of predictable ritual and deep silence, a routine designed to impose mental order. They were not just preserving information, they were enacting an entire philosophy of quiet endurance. The finished product, the illuminated manuscript, was heavy, solid, and rare. In a world of chaos and uncertainty, the scriptorium provided a stable, dark, quiet counterpoint, a rhythmic, predictable flow of ink and time. This slow repetition is the perfect companion for a mind needing to slow its own internal pace.
As knowledge began to creep back out of the monastery and into the first universities of Europe during the 14th and 15th centuries, a fascinating structural element emerged: the chained library. This is a purely visual, physically grounding concept, perfect for settling the mind. Imagine a large, airy, stone-walled room, often a long gallery on an upper floor, filled with sturdy wooden reading desks placed perpendicular to the windows. The books, Large, heavy, expensive volumes are not tucked away in glass cabinets. They are laid flat or stacked upright on the shelf, and each one is secured to the desk or the shelf pole by a long, delicate chain. The chains were not a punishment. They were an affirmation of value and a promise of availability. A chain ensured that a valuable book could be studied at the desk, but never removed from the room. The length of the chain was carefully calibrated to allow the reader to move the book only a short, necessary distance, a physical constraint that demands a slower, more focused act of reading. This system creates a palpable atmosphere of weighty, deliberate study. If you were to walk through a chained library, you would hear the faint, soft clink of metal as a scholar carefully pulled a book toward them or pushed it back into place. It is a sound of permanence and order. The library's inventory was fixed, its contents immovable, a physical embodiment of reliability in an unpredictable world. We find peace in visualizing this static, predictable geometry, the chain securing the text, the reader securing the knowledge. Now cross the Atlantic with me, arriving in the often harsh, pragmatic environment of colonial America. The concept of the public library as we know it was decades away. Here, in the homes of the intellectual elite, the ministers, merchants, and educated landowners, the library began as a personal, private collection, a quiet, contained universe of books imported from Europe. Picture a study in a colonial New England home, dark wood paneling, perhaps a small, controlled fire in the hearth, and a few hundred leather-bound books carefully arranged on simple, high shelves. The books were practical: theological works, law texts, classical literature, and farming manuals. These were tools for a life of purpose, not merely entertainment. The library was a symbol of quiet personal industry. Access was not communal. It was reserved for the owner and perhaps his immediate family. The soundscape here is one of simple domestication: the gentle crackle of the fire, the distant tap-tap of a clock, and the soft snick of the owner carefully sliding a book out from its tight spot on the shelf. These early libraries were small, intensely curated, and deeply valued. They were a foundation laid slowly, brick by brick, representing the quiet intellectual aspiration of the nascent American identity. We are observing a domestic scene of quiet, singular focus, the perfect environment for settling the mind. The next gentle step in the American library's evolution was defined not by grand ambition, but by quiet cooperation. As towns grew, individuals realized that purchasing books was expensive, but sharing them was economical. And so, in places like Philadelphia and Boston, the subscription library was quietly born. This concept, pioneered notably by Benjamin Franklin in 1731 with the Library Company of Philadelphia, was profoundly democratic in its execution. These libraries were essentially quiet clubs. Members paid a fee, a modest annual subscription, and in return gained access to a shared collection of books. The structure was orderly and predictable. Imagine the soft scratching of a quill as the clerk meticulously recorded dues, lending records, and new purchases in large leather-bound ledgers. The books were typically kept in a private office or a rented upper room, a space dedicated purely to the slow, steady process of circulation. There was a profound ritual to visiting a subscription library. You would present yourself, wait your turn, and quietly consult the printed catalog, a thin pamphlet detailing the available volumes. The emphasis was on collective responsibility and meticulous accounting. This system introduced the quiet hum of process to the culture of reading, the steady rhythm of borrowing, returning, and maintaining order. It is a predictable routine, and in predictability, the anxious mind finds its rest. The early American library was, first and foremost, a well-managed ledger, a document of quiet trust between neighbors. Now we arrive at the turn of the 20th century, where the library's slow, deliberate growth was accelerated by one man's quiet generosity. Andrew Carnegie, the industrialist, decided that his vast wealth should be put toward a permanent, predictable benefit of the public. He offered a simple, powerful deal to thousands of communities across the United States. He would pay to build the library structure itself, provided the community guaranteed the funding to maintain it, stock it with books, and staff it. This philanthropy was not flashy, it was systematic. Carnegie did not donate books, he donated buildings. He understood that the building itself was the promise of permanence. As a result, 1,689 Carnegie libraries were built in the U.S. alone. These libraries were built with a recognizable, consistent structure, sturdy brick or stone, often with a central staircase, large windows for natural light, and quiet, heavy doors. This architectural uniformity is deeply soothing. No matter which town you lived in, the Carnegie Library offered a similar dependable layout, a steady, familiar stage for the mind to work. The money flowed slowly, deliberately, and the buildings rose with quiet dignity. They were a testament to the idea that quiet learning should be accessible to everyone, a profound, peaceful commitment of capital to the common good. We are observing the tranquil spread of knowledge, one well-designed, low-conflict building at a time.
Let us linger a moment longer on the physical space of the Carnegie Library, for its design was a direct, calculated response to the need for urban calm. These buildings were meant to be accessible temples of learning, built not for the elite, but for the working person. The typical Carnegie Library featured several calming architectural elements. First, the exterior usually included a short flight of steps leading up to the main entrance. This elevation, known as the Carnegie Standard, was symbolic, separating the serious, quiet work inside from the street noise and clutter outside. It mandated a moment of transition, a chance to shed the hurried pace of the street before entering the sanctuary. Inside, the spaces were often open concept, large, undivided rooms where the librarian could observe all the patrons. This structure served a dual purpose, supervision and natural light. Light was maximized through tall, arched windows, bathing the reading room in a soft, steady glow. The color palettes were often dark wood and deep greens or reds, colors that absorb sound and suggest warmth and permanence. Everything, the sturdy oak chairs, the high ceilings, the brass railings, was built to last, built to be quiet, and built to create a predictable, unchanging environment. It is the perfect sensory envelope for a mind that needs to detach. Now we descend from the architecture and enter the realm of pure, calming order, the organization of the books themselves. This predictability is managed by one of the most methodical and quietly influential systems ever devised, the Dewey Decimal Classification. Invented by Melville Dewey in 1876, the system assigns every conceivable topic a number, ranging from 000, computer science, bibliography, to 999, history and geography. This decimal structure is inherently soothing because it confirms that every book, every idea has a specific, logical, and unchanging place. There is no chaos here, only hierarchy. Imagine the sound of the system at work, the soft, continuous thump of a book being shelved, placed precisely between 796.52, mountaineering, and 797.1, boating. A system that organizes all human knowledge into 10 main classes, further subdivided into 10 divisions, and then 10 sections, offers a geometric comfort to the restless mind. It means that whether you are searching for poetry or microbiology, the structure remains consistent, reliable, and entirely predictable. You are not finding knowledge in a rush. You are simply following a set of quiet, established numerical rules. The system itself whispers, "Rest. The order is complete." Before computers, the gateway to this numeric order was the card catalog, a piece of furniture now relegated to history, but one that embodied repetitive, focused work. Imagine a long chest of narrow wooden drawers, each drawer containing hundreds of small, uniform 3 by 5 inch cards. The process of using the catalog was a perfect exercise in slow, sensory focus. You would approach the drawers, select the one corresponding to the first letters of your topic, and gently pull it open. The sound was a distinctive, soft thunk as the drawer met its stop. You would then slide your finger over the smooth, heavy index cards, perhaps hearing the faint, rhythmic flick, flick, flick as you passed through the alphabet. Each card provided the key information, the author, the title, and most importantly, the sacred Dewey Decimal Number, the coordinates of your chosen book. The meticulous, repetitive labor of maintaining this catalog, ensuring every card was filed correctly, every number accurate, was the quiet, unseen work that underpinned the entire library. This process was human, repetitive, and deeply predictable. It required patience and precision, forcing the user to slow down, breathe, and engage in the tranquil search for a single, small piece of paper that held the key to a vast, silent world. The library's atmosphere of quiet is not accidental. It is a shared social achievement, a collective commitment to peace. Unlike a coffee shop or a park, the library imposes an immediate behavioral demand: silence. This requirement, formalized into library etiquette, serves as a kind of civic meditation. The rule of silence is a profound statement of respect, respect for the focus of others, and respect for the integrity of the work itself. When you enter, your voice automatically drops to a whisper. Your footsteps become softer. The sound of a cell phone becomes a shocking, unnatural intrusion. This quiet is reinforced by soft furnishings, carpeted floors, and a collective, unspoken agreement among strangers to maintain the sanctuary. The librarian, acting as the quiet guardian of this social contract, enforces the peace not through shouting, but often through a simple, calm gesture, a steady gaze, a gentle finger raised to the lips. This peaceful enforcement reinforces the boundary between the noisy world and the interior focus. This quiet is a gift we give to one another in this space, the gift of uninterrupted thought, the freedom from demand. It is the sound of collective rest. Even in the last few decades, as the digital age dawned, the library's response was characteristically slow and deliberate. It was a transition of gentle preservation, not panicked replacement. When the threat of physical deterioration became too great, the library turned to microfilm, a slow, patient process of photographing every page of fragile newspapers and documents, shrinking vast archives down to tiny, manageable reels. The sound of microfilm is a soft, continuous whir of the projector, a cool lens casting an image onto a dimly lit screen. It is quiet, low-tech preservation. And today, with the digital transition, the library quietly adds to its collection through ebooks and online archives. This is the ultimate act of silent conservation, allowing texts to be accessed anywhere without the physical wear of a page turn. But importantly, the physical books still stand. The digital layer is merely a duplicate, a backup. The library continues to operate in two dimensions simultaneously:
the cool, calm permanence of the stacks, and the weightless, accessible space of the cloud. The work of preservation is endless, continuous, and utterly predictable, a gentle hum of quiet utility. We have journeyed from the clay tablets of Nineveh to the digital catalog of today, observing the common thread, the human need for quiet, focused organization. The library, in its final reflective form, is not merely a storage facility. It is an argument for stillness. In a world saturated with fragmented attention and constant noise, the library maintains an unwavering discipline, linear reading, sustained focus, and self-directed inquiry. When we feel the weight of the library, the hum of the archives, we are sensing the presence of 4 millennia of intentional quietude. The predictable order of the shelves, the subdued lighting, the scent of aging paper, these are sensory cues that tell your brain the input has slowed. You are safe to process. You are safe to rest. It is a physical place that allows the emotional weight of your day to finally settle, allowing your thoughts to be slow and sequential rather than frantic and parallel. The history of the library is, in the end, the history of finding a quiet home for the mind. 15. Final chapter. Leaving the light on, drifting off. Our journey through the silent stacks now concludes. You have traveled across time and continents, observing the meticulous, methodical work of scribes, scholars, architects, and librarians, all dedicated to the task of maintaining order and promoting stillness. The long, quiet rhythm of history has been told. The light is now dim. You have absorbed the certainty of the Dewey Decimal System, the permanence of the Carnegie Stone, and the deep, enduring calm of the clay tablets. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to track, nothing more to organize. The pages are closed. The lights are low. The library is quiet.